Oregon offensive coordinator Will Stein has given the Oregon football team some news. That's not so great at this point. He has been hired to go to Kentucky. There was kind of a nice little battle between him and Brian Hartline. Brian Hartline interviewed for the job as well, but obviously seems like Kentucky wanted to get this done as quickly as possible. So they go with Will Stein. I think it's a great route for Kentucky. We're not going to talk too much about them, but I love the route of the coordinator hires. We'll see what happens. They obviously need to invest in their program if they want to win there. But this is a really, really cool thing for Will Stein. I mean, for him to be coaching at Lake Travis High School in Texas in 2019. He gets the job at UTSA. He gets the job at Oregon. And now, just 6 years later, he is at Kentucky, a head coach in college football. And really, we shouldn't be surprised by it. I'll talk more about Oregon and their offensive coordinator success that they have in the program and outside of the program here in a little bit. But the good news is for Oregon is that Stein is going, it's been reported that Will Stein is going to continue to coach the team throughout the playoffs. And this is something that honestly, it was kind of expected. Kentucky kind of has a little bit of an old school athletic director. He's not going to come in and demand all this stuff. He's not going to look for the circus like what you had with Lane Kiffin or anything like that. And so that was always going to be a really desirable thing for guys like Brian Hartline and Will Stein. I've heard that Brian Hartline would have 1,000% taken the job if it was offered to him. You can tell Brian Hartline he wants to go get his own program. He wants to go be a head coach someplace. We'll see if it happens here at some point this season. But Lanning was working at Oregon when he was the Georgia defensive coordinator at the same time back in 2020, was it 2021? Yeah, back at that time. So this whole thing with a person being at one school, in the playoffs with one team, but still working as a head coach for another team can work. And for all we know, Dan Lanning might be the type of guy, I think he probably is, he wants to see his coaches succeed. He might be the type of guy that says, hey, let me coach you through this, how you go through with something like this. I think this is a great situation for Will Stein to be able to get that type of experience from Dan Lanning. Also for him to go to a school that is not pressuring him to try to get out of Oregon, come here and do all this stuff, but for him to just be able to go get the head coaching job, continue to coach his team throughout the playoffs. And I think that's huge for Oregon to be able to have that, because Will Stein has been an absolute master on offense this season with the run game, the development of Dante Moore, and really that's what you have to think that is going on with Will Stein here, is they want to bring in the quarterback development that he gives you. Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel, Dante Moore. And to me, this signifies that Dante Moore is probably out. I think Dante Moore is probably going to the NFL after this season. He's most likely going to be a first-round pick. I don't know how you turn that down. Most likely. He is very likely going to be a first-round pick, if not a top 5, top 10 pick out there. He is somebody that has done a really good job to develop throughout the year. Had a little bit of a rough patch there against Penn State and Indiana, but he ultimately ended that Penn State game very well, and he's learned from that Indiana game and continue to grow and get better, which is huge for them. So since 2003, Stein has been an absolute monster as an offensive coordinator. I mean, he has had a top 10 offense every single year, it seems like. Now SP Plus had him in 2023 at UTSA, at UTSA. I don't think it was in 2023. What year was it? Anyway, he had them as the number 23 offense in the nation in SP Plus, which is still really, really good for the group of 5. That normally means that you're the best, if not one of the best group of 5 offenses, which is huge. He then goes to Oregon. He gives them 2 top 3 offenses in a row. And then this year, the offense isn't as high, but that running game is still showing his versatility as an offensive coordinator. He's not just a pass it, dink it, dunk it, screen type of guy that's going to get a really high completion percentage for his quarterbacks. He's also somebody that, as we saw in the Ohio State game last year at Autzen, he can throw it down the field. He's somebody that is able to work through different offensive line combinations, makes things simple, and he is also the type of guy that is able to have a very good run scheme that he's able to work with, and it's huge for them. So let's talk through some of the next offensive coordinator type of guys out there, and then we'll kind of finish it up here. So I do think that you give Chip Kelly a call. Now, I don't know if Chip Kelly would be the type of guy that takes the offensive coordinator job. Might be more of an analyst or something like that. But I do think you have to give Chip Kelly the call and just see if he's interested. If Brian Hartline is not moving on from Ohio State, then that's going to leave some more possibility at Oregon than it would at Ohio State. So maybe Chip Kelly comes in and he wants to kind of work with the team. We'll see. You also have the option of Rashada Samples to be the next offensive coordinator. I do think that is probably not super likely. Same thing with the next guy on my list because he's not a quarterback coach, and I do think it seems like Dan Lanning prefers those quarterback coaches. And really, the quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, has been huge for this Oregon program for a long time. We'll talk more about some previous offensive coordinators for Oregon, but I want to get through this list of my options here. Casey Woods, another offensive coordinator. He's at SMU. He's done well this season. However, he is also a former tight end coach, or he is a tight end coach and offensive coordinator together. It seems kind of out of Dan Lanning's MO to go do that. Obviously, he can do whatever he wants here, but it just doesn't seem like something he would go do. And then another name to bring up, Barry Lunney Jr. at Illinois. He's done a really good job with Luke Altmaier. With less talent, he's done a good job there. And really, his biggest struggle has been, lack of offensive line production out there. And who better to give him to than an elite Terry, who is one of the best, if not the best, offensive line coaches in the country. And then final name here, and I actually think this is most likely, and I wouldn't put any, money on him to get the job or anything, but I do think that it's a very interesting one. He could get it. Let's talk about Mack Leftwich from Texas Tech. Now, this would be a very difficult pull to come from Texas Tech. Texas Tech is is a college football playoff team. They're going to most likely be in the top 4 as long as they beat BYU. So they have a lot going for them, but Oregon is a much more consistent team. Oregon recruits much better, more consistently. Texas Tech is kind of hoping that this SCORE Act doesn't go through so that way they can keep paying players. Oregon has built up the reputation where, yes, they have the money, but they also are able to bring in the guys because of the reputation that they have. And also at the same time, Mack Leftwich from Texas, which Dan Lanning seems to really like to hire his offensive coordinators from, but he's formerly from Texas Tech. And he is the brother of Cutter Leftwich, who is an Oregon assistant offensive line coach this year. He's only been there for about 9 months, but he was on staff as a GA in 2023 as well. So on staff as a GA at Oregon in 2023, leaves for North Texas, comes back to Oregon as an assistant offensive line coach this season. I think with the brother interaction here, you do see a good possibility of this happening. Obviously, it's all up to Mack and what he wants to do, where if he's comfortable with where he's at, all that stuff that we really can't predict. But I do think the brother connection there is something that needs to be talked about. I did see Mack's name on somebody else's list, but they didn't they didn't point out the brother. So I want to make sure I point that out and show you it's possible this could happen. And listen, whoever gets this job as offensive coordinator at Oregon is going to be set up really, really well. 7 of Oregon's last 8 offensive coordinators, okay? 7 of their last 8 went on to be head coaches. All right, Will Stein just went to Kentucky. Kenny Dillingham from he was there for 2022. He goes to Arizona State, his alma mater. Joe Moorhead in the COVID year 2020 and 2021, he goes on to be the Akron's head coach. Marcus Arroyo, 2017 to 2019, he's off to UNLV to be their head coach. Scott Frost, 2013 to 2015, you did have the one coach there, Rubbick. I apologize. I'm getting my B and my D mixed up there. If you're an Oregon fan, you know who I'm talking about. Scott Frost there from 2013 to 2015. He goes and beats the head coach at UCF. And then, of course, the 2 guys that went on to be the head coaches of Oregon, Mark Leftwich, 2009 to 2012, and then Chip Kelly, 2007 to 2008, offensive coordinator who got the promotion there. So it is possible that you get the promotion of a Rashada Samples or something like that, but it just seems like to me Dan Lanning's the type of guy that's going to want to keep the consistency of a quarterback coach type of deal. And I fully trust Dan Lanning. I mean, I said it on the Taj LaPoy episode. I fully trust Dan Lanning to go out there, get a really good offensive coordinator, bring him in, and keep this offense humming at a very high level. Probably the worst impact of this, right? Obviously, losing Will Stein has a bad impact. Probably the worst impact of this is I do think this might put them behind a little bit for Chris Henry Jr., right? I mean, Will Stein, obviously, he's not the wide receiver coach or anything. Douglas is, but still, this loss of an offensive coordinator could impact things. We'll see if it does. Signing day, Wednesday through Friday, I believe. So we'll see what Chris Henry Jr. does there. But I would think that losing a one of the best, if not the best, offensive coordinators in the nation would maybe give Chris Henry some second thoughts if he was going to decide to flip from Ohio State to Oregon. I actually think he would flip from Ohio State to Oregon just to show I'm consistent. I think he would flip from Ohio State to Oregon in a heartbeat if Brian Hartline got this job instead of Will Stein did. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be really interesting. Let me know you guys' thoughts. Like, share, subscribe here on the Big Ten Huddle. Really helps us out. Check out, the names that I have here: Mack Leftwich, Lunney Jr, Casey Woods, Rashada Samples. Give Chip Kelly a call. And then if you have any additional names you would like to add, please do put them in the comments below. Would love to hear what you guys have to say. Thanks so much for listening. Have a good one.